Mark always knew the quiet moments. Not the silence of an empty room, but the pregnant pause before a storm, the still air before a sudden gust. He'd built a career on it, analyzing the almost imperceptible shifts in market data that signaled a seismic change. He saw patterns in numbers, and lately, he was starting to see them in Helen. She'd always been a whirlwind, a vibrant splash of color in his meticulously ordered world. They'd met in college, a chaotic mix of ambition and idealism, and for years their lives had intertwined like perfectly matched gears. She was the dreamer, he was the anchor. She designed marketing campaigns that buzzed with life. He managed the finances that made those dreams a reality. Their life was a testament to balance, a tastefully renovated craftsman house in the suburbs of Portland, 2 cars, one sensible sedan for him, a sleek electric SUV for her, and a shared calendar that, until recently, had hummed with a predictable rhythm of work trips, weekend hikes, and quiet evenings in. But the rhythm was off. Like a metronome skipping a beat, then another, then finding a new, slightly dissonant tempo. It began subtly, a series of micro-adjustments. Her 5 a.m. airport runs for early flights became less frequent for him, replaced by a quick Ubers here and the hasty peck of a kiss. The late client dinners in Chicago, New York or LA stretched into full weekends, explained away by team-building retreats or intensive strategy sessions. Mark, ever the rationalist, filed these changes under career progression. Helen was ambitious, and her firm Lawson & Briggs was expanding rapidly. It made sense she'd be working harder, traveling more. He'd try to meet her at the airport when she returned, a small gesture of welcome. She'd usually text him from the tarmac, stuck on the plane. Don't wait up. When she finally arrived, she'd be a blur of motion, dropping her carry-on, shrugging off a blazer, already scrolling her phone. Long flight, she'd murmur, her voice tight with a fatigue that seemed to go deeper than mere jet lag. She'd kiss the air next to his cheek, a practiced movement that required minimal effort and made zero contact. The first whisper of winter. One Tuesday morning, as he made their customary French press coffee, he opened their shared spending app. Mark managed numbers for a living. He noticed patterns. The corporate card, which she mostly used for legitimate business expenses, had begun to tell a different story. A resort parking charge in Palm Springs, dated the same weekend she claimed to be at a leadership summit in Denver. A salon with palm trees in its logo, also in Palm Springs. 2 identical seafood restaurants, 3 weekends in a row, all showing charges from different cities, but with a recurring pattern, always on a Saturday night. Not illegal, just curated. He scrolled back months, same unsettling rhythm. A summit in Denver with a vibrant, wide-brimmed sun hat accidentally left in the laundry hamper. A retreat in Philadelphia, but a few grains of beach sand, unmistakably coastal, rattled out of the dryer filter when he cleaned it. Meanwhile, on his end, the household ledger hummed with precision. Groceries, utilities, a tune-up for her car, dental bills for both of them. A balanced household, if you ignored the invisible force pulling everything off kilter. At lunch, he decided to test the waters. He slid the tablet across the island toward her, the spending app open. Random question, he began, keeping his voice carefully neutral. Your firm's parking receipts.
Why do they all say valet?
Company cars don't usually hit valet, do they? Helen didn't look up from her salad. Their system prints valet by default. Mark, everyone knows that. Her tone was dismissive, a casual wave of a hand that swept away his question as if it were a speck of dust. Everyone, he repeated, a subtle note of skepticism in his voice. And the spa charges? Client hospitality, she said, pouring herself a to-go coffee. You don't get how it works. Educate me, Mark replied, leaning back, his arms crossed. He watched her, a knot tightening in his stomach. Her movements were too fluid, too unconcerned. A lie, well rehearsed, often comes with an air of practiced nonchalance. She tightened the lid on her cup. Mark, please. I'm already late. You always are. He countered, letting a sliver of exasperation creep into his voice. Just one more. Why did you unshare your calendar? She lifted her expensive leather bag. Because you critique it. It's work. Stop micromanaging. I don't micromanage adults, Helen, he said, his voice dropping to a low, steady tone. I track patterns. They tell their own story. Are we doing this now? She forced a smile, a brittle, strained expression. You promised you'd be supportive. I am, Mark said, meeting her gaze. I'm supporting Data. Her smile cooled by 10 degrees. I'll be home someday. Don't wait up. She blew him a kiss that landed nowhere near him, then rolled her suitcase down the hall. The wheels clicked against the hardwood, a relentless rhythm counting down to something he hadn't named yet. He stood in the kitchen, listening to the quiet tick of the thermostat, and made 2 decisions that would fundamentally alter the landscape of their marriage. First, no more blind sponsorship. The household bills, mortgage, utilities, insurance, groceries would remain covered by his salary, which was more than sufficient. But anything beyond that would split. Her personal expenses, her clothes, her flights that weren't explicitly for work, her spa treatments that weren't client hospitality. Those would now come from her account. It wasn't a punishment, he reasoned, but a boundary. A clear line drawn in the sand, based on the ledger she was building. Second, he would stop volunteering for husband-as-assistant duties. No more 5 a.m. airport shuttles. No more last-minute dry cleaning runs for her blazers. No more, can you add miles to my account, honey? Requests. She could handle her own logistics. If the dynamic was going to be transactional, he'd keep the ledger straight. If she was building a parallel life, then he would manage his own. That night, he texted Rick, a friend who ran a body shop. Rick knew where to get anything that kept machines honest. Need something for inventory control? Mark texted. Rick replied immediately, hunting or fishing, Marky? Or just making sure the kids aren't stealing your tools? Inventory control, Mark reiterated. Better shoes. Rick chuckled in his reply. Got just the thing. Come by tomorrow. The next afternoon, Rick handed him a tiny GPS tag, no larger than a car key fob. Legal to own, designed to track luggage, Rick explained, waggling his eyebrows. Good signal, long battery. Just stick it somewhere discreet. Mark paid him, a silent transaction of knowing. He wasn't going hunting. He was gathering evidence. By Thursday, Helen was in a remarkably good mood, which, in their house, usually meant she was on script. She tossed him a line while scrolling her phone at the kitchen island. We should do brunch next weekend, she suggested, her voice light. That new rooftop spot in Midtown. Can't, Mark replied, cutting limes for his evening cocktail. Cutting limes. Taking a Saturday drive with Rick. He wants my help picking up a used lift for the shop. She glanced up, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. Since when do you do Saturday drives? Since I stopped doing Saturday errands alone, he said, while you host clients. Wow, she said, her voice dripping sarcasm. Passive-aggressive much? Not passive, Mark answered, meeting her gaze steadily. Pretty clear. Her mouth thinned. Then, like a seasoned pro, she switched tactics. Her voice softened, her expression morphing into one of vulnerability. Look, I know I've been distant, she began, stepping closer. It's been heavy at work. I shouldn't snap at you. Chicago will be quick. I'll bring back that deep dish you like. There it was. The first olive branch since December. It looked hand-carved and smelled distinctly of strategy. Mark rinsed his knife deliberately. Appreciate the thought. She stepped closer still, resting her chin on his shoulder in a way that used to be automatic, now felt staged. I booked a couple's massage for the weekend after I'm back. My treat. And yet, Mark said, nodding subtly toward the gray carry-on by the door, already packed. You packed the new swimsuit. Her hand slid away from his shoulder. There's a hotel pool in Chicago, she said, her voice defensively quick. Indoor, Mark. She rolled her eyes, a gesture of exasperated fondness that didn't quite land. Really? Mark shrugged. Enjoy the pool. When she went to shower, Mark opened her carry-on, ostensibly to tuck in a spare phone charger in case she forgot hers. The tiny GPS tag slipped effortlessly into a side pocket tucked beneath the lining. Less Hollywood than it sounded. A practical step. If you're going to hear the story, you might as well listen for the actual words. That night, she left for a late meeting with a partner flying in early. Mark set a reminder on his phone. Tag check. She returned around 10, kissed the air near his face again, and fell asleep sideways in their bed, guarding her phone like a precious passport. Mark lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan, cataloging tiny acts of distance. You can't fix what someone's actively dismantling. Friday morning, She rolled out of the driveway, a blazer over a thin tee, sunglasses perched on her nose, the kind you'd wear somewhere significantly brighter than a gray Portland morning or O'Hare. Mark made no comment. He drove to Rick's shop and helped him pull a bumper off a truck, the mundane work a balm to his churning mind. Then he checked the tag app. ATL Atlanta, then ORD Chicago, just like she'd told him. The dot moved with perfect expected precision. 6 hours later, he was at his desk, finalizing a quarterly report, when the dot on his screen pinged in the middle of downtown Miami, Collins Avenue. 10 minutes after that, his phone lit up with a text from her. Flight delayed in Chicago, unreal, might be a late arrival. Don't wait up. Mark stared at the message, then back at the dot on the map, hovering over a strip of hotels a block from Miami Beach. Not a wrong gate. Not a diverted flight. Miami, Collins Avenue. He sent exactly 2 words. Me, noted. A beat. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. He closed his laptop, walked out to his truck, and sat there for a minute, listening to the cooling tick of the engine. The tag stayed put, a digital pin through a butterfly. He didn't need a scene. He needed confirmation and a plan. He called Tony. Tony used to do security for a chain of high-end hotels, now did private work. The man talked in invoices, not adjectives. Miami, Mark said. The Strip. Got it. Tony's gruff voice came through the phone. The tag says Collins, Mark continued. She's in a blue blazer, shoulder-length hair, small rolling bag. Registered under her corporate email for most trips. Okay, Tony replied. Text me her photo. I'll have eyes by morning. I'll bill travel at my standard. Bill me double if you're fast. You're already my favorite client. Saturday arrived with a cool, persistent drizzle in Portland, a stark contrast to the brilliant sunshine Mark knew was baking the sand on Collins Avenue. He was at Rick's body shop, 2 paper cups of coffee steaming between them, the smell of grease and metal a grounding distraction. They pretended to talk about carburetors, but the silence was thick, pregnant with the unspoken reality of Miami. You don't narrate a house fire while it's burning, Rick finally said. Not a question, just a simple statement of fact. He looked at Mark with the easy empathy of a man who'd seen a lot of collateral damage in life. You gonna drive down there? No, Mark replied, swirling the coffee in his cup. I'm going to set the table here. What do you need? A couple of hours and your laptop. Rick slid the machine over the workbench. Mark didn't need to break laws. He just needed to connect dots that were already public. He pulled up Lawson & Briggs' corporate page. Nothing shady, just bios and press releases. He focused on the leadership team and their compliance policies. Then he compiled a neat PDF. This was the meat of his data, a timeline of Helen's client hospitality notes from their joint spending app, lined up by date, featuring the recurring logo of the Palm Springs Spa and the Miami Seafood restaurant names. He saved a draft email in a clean burner account with a subject line that held the cold, professional weight of an audit. Compliance concern, travel and hospitality. He addressed it to the 2 senior partners listed in leadership and the generic compliance inbox published at the bottom of the firm's page. He didn't hit send, not yet. You don't push every domino at once. You place them so they fall the right way. By noon, his phone vibrated. Tony. Got her. Tony's voice was efficient, stripped of emotion. Collins and 21st. The hotel with the bright yellow umbrellas. Mark felt a cold wave wash over him, but his throat didn't close. Good to know your wiring still works. Registered under? Her full name. Helen Hall. She's not alone. Names, Mark requested. Companion checked in separately yesterday. Brian Lawson, mid-40s, gym serious, smile for the camera type. Tony paused. Rooms are on the same floor, but not adjoining. That's for show. I have them leaving the elevator together twice. Breakfast on the terrace, then beach chairs, then a dinner reservation tonight under his name for 2. Photos are clean. No guesswork. Send them, Mark said. You want me to approach? Deliver a message? Absolutely not, Mark answered, his voice firm. You got it. The photos landed instantly. There she was, sunglasses perched, a flowing sundress the color of orange soda, the same one he'd watched her fold in Portland, laughing at a joke that the universe had already heard 1,000 times. There was Brian Lawson, all confidence and white teeth, his arm casually draped over the back of her chair. The terrace umbrella cast a slice of shade across both of them. Ordinary. That was the part that truly settled the matter. Not some scandalous scene in neon, but a steady, bland parallel life, funded by his patients and her firm's hospitality budget. He slid the phone back into his pocket and finished what he had started. The 3 moves mark had his confirmation. Now came the pivot, a strategy with 3 definitive non-negotiable moves designed to redefine their relationship's gravity. First move, the financial separation. He opened his personal banking app. He shifted their entire joint savings into 2 separate buckets, household and personal. His salary would continue to cover the non-negotiables listed in his first decision, the mortgage, core utilities, and insurance. Everything else was paused. Her personal credit card autopay was switched off. The corporate perks in their joint digital calendar, like the couple's massage she'd promised, were deleted from his view. He sent her a 1-line text message to her burner phone, the one she claimed was only for high-level client communications. Household essentials continue. Personal spending is yours. There was no reply. Second move, access and boundaries. The house had been a shared, fluid space. Mark changed that. He changed the garage code and immediately relegated her key fob to guest access hours, a pre-programmed window from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. She could still come and go, but the days of treating their house like a casual, 24/7 storage locker between sunrises were over. If she returned late, she'd be using the front door with a key like a guest. This move was about making the physical space reflect the emotional reality. Third move, the corporate leverage. He returned to the burner email draft. He packaged Tony's photos, the hospitality expense PDF, and a short 2-paragraph note. It was factual, dry, and traceable to nobody but a concerned party. It described the date overlaps, the merchant names, Palm Springs Spa, Miami Seafood Spot, and the conflict with her travel calendar. He read it twice, removed every single adjective, and pressed send. Rick let out a low whistle when Mark told him. "Cold," he said. "Accurate," Mark answered. "They can sort their own garden." "What are you going to say to her?" Rick asked. "I'm going to ask about Chicago," Mark said. "And then I'm going to give her distance. She's already living a separate life. I'm just acknowledging it. You need a place to crash?" "I sleep fine in my own bed," Mark replied. "At least until this weekend is over. Just keep your phone on." The ping came at 2 a.m. Sunday morning. "Helen, stuck on tarmac. Unreal. Don't wait up." The dot on the map remained on Collins Avenue. The next ping at 6 in the morning showed it creeping slowly toward Miami International Airport, suggesting she had an actual flight planned for the morning. A neat trick, Mark thought, like erasing the first half of a story and calling it a revision. At 9 a.m., she wheeled her bag through the front door. She had her "I'm exhausted but composed" expression on, the one meant to deter questions and invite sympathy. Mark was at the dining table, a copy of the New York Times spread out before him. "How was Chicago?" he asked, not looking up. She dropped her bag with a thud. "Cold, miserable, delays forever." "Yeah," Mark said, folding the page deliberately. "Miami is warmer." The sound in the room shifted, the air thinning. She laughed once, a forced, sharp sound. "Excuse me?" "Collins Avenue," Mark continued, his voice calm, conversational. "Great coffee down there. Love the bright umbrellas." She stood there, not confessing, not apologizing, but calculating the angles of his information. "You're being weird," she said. "Probably," Mark agreed. "It's been weird watching someone aim for a glossy life with my gas card." "There it is," she snapped, dropping the performance. "You hate my work. You hate that I'm doing well." "I love households where the math adds up," Mark corrected her, rising slowly from the chair. "Right now it doesn't. So we're changing the numbers. Effective immediately." "What numbers?" Mark gestured around the room. "Household is covered. Personal is yours. Codes are updated. If you have questions, ask them now. If you want to pack some things for the guest room, I already put fresh sheets." Her mouth twitched. "You're kicking me out of my house?" "I'm not kicking anyone. I'm housing us both like adults who need space to make decisions with clear heads." She looked at the staircase, then back at him, her eyes burning. "You can't control me." "I'm not trying to," he told her. I'm just done hosting 2 versions of you. She grabbed the handle of the carry-on, ready for an exit or a fight. You're overreacting. Probably under, if we're honest. Her phone chimed on the console. She glanced at it, then quickly silenced it. Mark let her stew for a minute, then took one final step. By the way, he added, his tone returning to a casual, over-the-shoulder register. If your firm calls about travel hospitality, direct them to compliance. They're usually efficient. Her face drained completely. What did you do? She whispered. I sent them the receipts they paid for, Mark said. They can decide whether that aligns with their policy. You're trying to ruin me, she whispered, her voice laced with genuine panic. I'm trying to stop sponsoring the theater. She took a step toward him, softening like a sales pitch. Mark, please, let's not nuke everything. I will explain. I'll cancel Miami. I'll focus here. We can fix it. Mark raised an eyebrow. You sent me a text from Chicago while drinking coffee on Collins Avenue. That wasn't an accident. That was a posture. She moved closer, placing a trembling hand on his arm. I'm sorry. I've been chasing something dumb. It's been a phase. Don't lock me out. I'll make it right. First illusion. A gentle apology before the trip. This one came with a trembling voice and a hand on his sleeve. Mark respected the consistent technique. He nodded, not unkindly. The guest room's ready, he said. Use it. Get some sleep. We'll keep the calendar civil. I've got a full week ahead. She swallowed whatever speech she'd prepared and lugged the gray bag upstairs. 10 minutes later, the house alarm chimed with a failed code attempt. Twice. Then his phone rang. What did you do to the garage? She demanded. Gave it polite hours, Mark replied. You're inside now. You'll be fine. Unbelievable, she hissed. You can't. I just did. Mark went to the porch and watered the small row of plants their neighbor, Sandra, was forever trying to rescue. Sandra waved from her driveway. She liked to supervise their street like it was a small city. You two okay? Sandra asked, not nosy, just present. We're taking a breather, Mark said. Breathers are good, Sandra nodded. Better than break things. Agreed. Back inside, his phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He picked up. Is this Mark? A male voice asked. Speaking. This is Ethan from the leadership team at Lawson & Briggs. We received a compliance packet today regarding Miss Hall's travel. We're conducting a review. I'm not asking you anything, but I wanted to let you know we'll be in touch with her. Understood, Mark said. We value integrity, Ethan added, as if reading from a card. Good policy. Mark hung up. 2 minutes later, Helen came down in a white terry cloth robe, hair wet, her face carefully arranged into an expression of controlled kindness. Can we sit? She asked. We're standing fine. Please sit, she repeated softer. Mark sat. She perched across from him. I was wrong, she began. About the traveling so much. About not looping you in. I've been trying to feel like I've made it. That I'm not stuck in routines. The trips help me breathe. I should have told you. I'll adjust. I'll build us in, not around. Let me prove it. Give me a month. No more whatever you think this is. I'll be home. I'll be a partner to you. The script was clean. Mark, ever the greater of persuasion, would give it an A-. He poured water into a glass and slid it toward her. Drink, he said. You'll need it if your firm calls today. She looked down. The robe belt trembled in her fingers, not dramatically, just with effort. The phone on the table lit up. She flipped it over. Who is Brian Lawson? Mark asked. Her eyes snapped up. Why would you ask that? The hotel had a reservation under his name, Mark answered. Seems friendly. He's an old colleague, she replied, a little too quickly. He's harmless. He's also connected. He introduces me to people. People under bright umbrellas, Mark said. That earned a flinch. I'm done playing, he told her. You want glossy weekends? Book them with your own money and your own name. You want a home? Respect the person paying for the roof. Choose. She stared at him, not like a husband, but like a deal that had just gotten irreversibly complicated. Then she stood as if that solved anything. I'm taking a nap, she said. We'll talk tonight. Sleep well. When she went upstairs, Mark pulled 3 cardboard boxes from the garage, labeled them with a thick marker, closet, bath, desk. He set them neatly outside the guest room door. It wasn't punishment. It was a gentle reminder that choices take space, and space has to come from somewhere. By evening, Helen was civil again. The confrontation of the morning had been replaced by a performative calm, a quiet resolution that spoke of a new strategy. They ate in near silence at opposite ends of the dining table. She cleared the dishes afterward, a domestic peace treaty offered in the scraping of plates. "Thank you," Mark told her. "Dishwasher's running. I'm heading out early tomorrow." "With Rick?" she asked. "With myself," he replied. "I like my own company." At 9 o'clock, they both received the email. It was short, formal, and professionally devastating. Subject: scheduling discussion regarding recent travel entries. Helen Hall. Dear Ms. Hall, we need to schedule a discussion with you and our human resources partner regarding recent travel entries flagged for review. Please propose 3 times tomorrow, Monday, when you are available to connect via video conference. Helen stopped breathing for a second, the email glowing on her phone screen. Then, the performative calm returned, a mask snapping back into place. "It's a misunderstanding," she announced to the room, her voice a little too loud. "They just want clarification." "Then you'll enjoy clarifying it," Mark said. She went to the guest room without another word. The door clicked shut. That was probably the last quiet moment they shared in that house. Morning brought the rest of the erosion. At 10 sharp, her phone started vibrating in a steady rhythm. She took 2 calls in the hallway. Voices rose, fell, and reheated. She came into the kitchen a few minutes later with a smile pasted on. "They want me to take a week off while they check some reports," she said, trying to sound nonchalant. "That's thoughtful," Mark answered. "You could use a rest." "Stop," she snapped. "This is not funny." "I'm not laughing." She paced, then stopped abruptly, as if she had just remembered the playbook for humility. "Mark, I think I've been selfish," she said, her voice low and contrite. "I lost the plot. I'm going to fix it. I'll shut down all travel for a while. Delete the extras. Focus on us. I'll start dinner early today. Your favorite. We'll sit. We'll talk. We'll plan the spring. Just call the firm back. Tell them we're fine." "I didn't call your firm, Helen," Mark told her. "I sent receipts. They aren't the same thing." "Semantics," she dismissed. "Boundaries," Mark corrected. She walked over, employing a new angle. She wrapped her arms around his neck and pressed her forehead to his. "We're better than this," she whispered, her voice husky. "I'm better than this. Let me show you." It was the second illusion of intimacy since Miami. No tremble, no robe, just warmth turned up past safe. Mark placed his hands on her wrists and set them down gently, disconnecting her from him. "I heard you," he replied. "I'm still living in reality." She straightened, pulled her robe tighter as if she suddenly remembered modesty, then blew out a frustrated breath. "Okay," she said, her voice now flat and transactional. "Then I'll be practical. If you insist on this separation nonsense, I need a list of bills you'll keep covering, and I want access to the car this week. I have errands." "House, utilities, insurance," Mark replied, rattling off the list of non-negotiables. "Food is split. Gas is split. Use the spare car." "Your fob works during daylight hours," she scoffed. "You love control." "I love clarity. Oh, and by the way," she added casually, her fingers gripping the counter, "Saturday's Mia's birthday. We promised we'd go." "I'm not going," Mark answered. "You can deliver a gift from both of us. She'll ask where you are. You can tell her I'm done showing up out of habit." She folded her arms, searching for a last piece of leverage. The doorbell rang. 2 quick taps, 1 slow, Sandra's knock. Mark opened the door. "You two need anything?" Sandra asked. "I made banana bread. Don't judge the shape." "We're good, Sandra," Mark said. "Thanks." Helen stepped behind him, her smile pasted on. "Hi, Sandra." "We're great. Just tired from the traveling." Sandra's eyes flicked from Helen to Mark. She wasn't stupid. "Well," she said, holding the bread pan like a referee's flag. "If yelling starts, take it outside. We've got new windows." "No yelling," Mark replied. "Good. I like you both with inside voices." She handed Mark the bread and left. Helen closed the door and turned, her manufactured smile collapsing. "You're turning the whole neighborhood into an audience." "They have eyes," Mark said. "So do I." She stood there a second longer, then reached for her phone. "I'm making dinner," she said. "Real dinner, 7, be here." "I'll be here," he agreed. "And if your firm asks for your laptop, give it to them." Her head jerked up. "How would you know?" "I read the same internet as everyone else," Mark said. "When compliance reviews travel, they secure all digital assets. It's policy 4B, I think." "You're not helpful." "Correct." At 6:30, the house smelled of effort. She set the table, lit a candle, and put on music low enough to be thoughtful. When Mark sat, she reached for his hand. "I messed up," she began. "I needed to feel seen. Brian is a piece of my past that made me feel shiny. That's over now. Sit with me. Let me reset. We can rebuild this while you keep your job." "I'll do whatever they ask," she said quickly. "I'll pay back any out-of-bounds charges. I'll apologize to the partners. I will cut people off." "Good," Mark said. Now we're in the same neighborhood. They ate. The food was solid. Midway through, her phone lit again. She reached to silence it, then hesitated, her hand hovering over the screen. It was Ethan from Lawson and Briggs. "Helen," Mark said gently. "Answer it." She looked at him, her eyes wide with fear, before she finally tapped the screen. She stood and walked into the hallway, her voice hushed. Mark could only hear snippets, but the emotional cadence was clear. The brittle defense, the quick, terrified capitulation. She returned to the dining room minutes later. Her face was pale, her composure completely shattered. "They're terminating me," she whispered, her voice hollow. "Effective immediately. Gross misconduct related to expense fraud. And the other thing, they called it a breach of partner trust. They want the laptop and the company phone by noon tomorrow." Mark simply nodded, picking up his fork. "You did this," she breathed. The accusation heavy. "You sent the emails?" "Helen," he corrected, keeping his voice low. "You put in the expense reports. You got on the plane to Miami." She collapsed into her chair, burying her face in her hands. She cried, not the controlled, strategic tears of the day before, but the ragged, despairing sobs of a woman who had just realized the structure she'd built on lies had been leveled. After 10 minutes, the tears subsided, replaced by a cold fury. "So what now? You want a divorce? You win." "I'm not interested in winning, Helen. I'm interested in the truth. And space. The house is big enough for both of us to live independently for the next month while you sort your logistics. I need to know you are prepared to leave the key for Brian Lawson and the Glossy life outside before we talk about anything else." "Brian?" She scoffed, swiping at her eyes. "He blocked me 10 minutes after the firm called. He's not interested in unemployed girls facing fraud charges. He was only ever interested in the corporate perks." Mark pushed his plate away. "The irony is not lost on me." "This is your revenge," she stated, her voice trembling with accusation. "You didn't have to send that email." "You ruined my career." "No," Mark said, standing up. "I tracked a pattern. You followed the logic. Your career ruined itself when you decided that the integrity of the ledger was less important than a weekend on Collins Avenue." He went to the garage, retrieved the 3 cardboard boxes he'd labeled, and brought them back to the living room. "I'll be in the guest room tonight," Helen said, her voice defeated. "I'll start packing my things." "Good," Mark said, "but not in those." He set the boxes down near the front door. "Those are for Brian Lawson's things." Helen stared at the boxes, her brow furrowed. "What are you talking about?" "Brian Lawson," Mark explained, a slow, deliberate smile finally touching his lips. "The old colleague who checked in separately. He's the son of one of the senior partners I emailed, Ethan Lawson. The firm knew all about Brian's behavior with female executives. They've been trying to find a clean way to deal with his indiscretions without a lawsuit. He was the ticking time bomb they had been monitoring. Not you." Helen's jaw dropped. "The firm didn't need your receipts to fire you for expense fraud." "Helen," Mark continued, his voice quiet but carrying the full weight of his data analysis. "They already had enough on Brian Lawson and his habit of entertaining partners at high-end resorts using corporate cards. Your receipts and the conflicting calendar entries just gave them the clean, traceable path they needed to secure both terminations in one move. You were collateral damage, Helen. You didn't just cheat on me with a peso-walla young man. You cheated on me with the firm's biggest liability." Mark looked at the 3 boxes: closet, bath, desk. "I didn't send that email as revenge on you, Helen. he said. I sent it as a gift to the one person who deserved to be exposed. He paused, looking around the house he had anchored. I just needed a little inventory control to make sure all the parts landed where they belonged. He picked up the phone and texted Rick. Inventory cleared. Taking a long drive. Mark walked upstairs to their bedroom, the main bedroom, and shut the door. The sound of the guest room door clicking open minutes later, followed by the defeated shuffle of Helen starting to pack her first box, was the sound of the ledger finally balancing.